Well, guys, here is a brand new Madden franchise that I've been doing since 2019, and I finally finished the first season day. I'm not continuing this franchise. I'm ending off after the first season because I lost interest in it. I decided last night to finish the final weeks, and today is what I spent the last 2 hours getting this all done, as this is Madden 07 on the PSP, so the 2006 season. As something I kind of wanted to do like when I did my Madden 09 series at the time. Now, this series was different. It wasn't like the Madden 09 series where at first I would play all the games, each team trying to win, all that. I did not play any of the teams at all. It also isn't like how I do my other franchises where I would decide who would win and then simulate to that team won or anything like that. No. What instead was, I did total simulation. I'd pick one of the teams and I'd total simulate, pick the plays, and hope the results go my way and all that. I thought when I first did this series in 2019 out that it would be very cool, but at the same time I lost a lot of interest in it because it was always doing stupid things and felt like I wasn't in control of it. And as I found out years later, there is no control of it. It doesn't matter what play you pick. It's going to be the same outcome no matter what. Like, it's already planned ahead of time. Like, if you do a pass play and you gain 2 yards, reload the save state beforehand, reload the save and pick a different pass play, still same thing, just 2-yard gain. No matter what pass or run play you pick, it's going to be the exact same outcome. And that really killed my mood to continue playing on it. But I decided to finally finish it, and I figured, why not show it off to you all since this is going to be the only time you're going to see it. So here we go. Of course, I'm streaming from the Alienware through TeamViewer. So anyways, this is how the season went. So in the AFC North, the Steelers, the defending champions, played very strong, and they went 12-4, improvement from the 11-5 last year, and they got the number 2 seed. And then the second seed, then it's the Ravens, who after going 6-10 last year, improved to 7-9, but they really weren't that good of a team throughout the year. The Bengals, however, as the 11-5 team last year, completely fell off this year, as they went 6-10, their first losing season since 2002, as their defense was horrible. And the Browns finished exactly how they did in real life 2006, going 4-12, as their defense was horrible. Then in the AFC South, the Colts, after being the number 1 seed last year and going 1-done to the Steelers, managed to get the number 1 seed once again, going 13-3, looking dominant. The Jaguars were horrible all year, but then near the middle of the season they started to turn around, but by that point it was too late, as they were a horrible 7-9 team for losing season for the first time since 2003. The Texans, after they were the worst team last year, 2-14, finished exactly how they did in real life 2006, as they went 6-10, and it's not looking that bad. And the Titans, of course, instead of going 8-8 like they did in real life with Vince Young after starting off 2-7, they finished 4-12, the exact record as they did in 2005. Then the AFC East, the Patriots, just like in real life 2006, went 12-4. They blew the chance to clinch home field, first round bye though, since they somehow choked against the Jaguars with the second to last week of the season because Brady threw 3 interceptions, so they had to settle as the 3rd seed. And the Dolphins, after they went 9-7 last year, the Dolphins in real life, for all of you who don't know, in 2006 were considered a Super Bowl contender, but they went 6-10. This year they went 9-7, despite the fact that Culpepper, their QB, throwing 26 interceptions. They went 9-7 once again, and they actually made the playoffs for the first time since 2001. And the Bills finished the exact same record they did in real life, 2006, 7-9. And oh boy, the Jets. They went 4-12 last year, and to start this franchise, they were 4-0. And then after losing 2 in a row, they were 5-2 and easily looking like they were going to make a playoff spot. But no, they went on to lose every game except the last game of the year, from 5-2 to 6-10. 2-game improvement from last year, yes, but they didn't go 10-6 and make the playoffs like they did in real life 2006. Very disappointing year for them. Then in the AFC West, the Broncos, after they fell short to the Steelers in the conference championship last year, regressed to 11-5. They lost all 3 of their games between the Colts, Steelers, and Patriots, which cost them a better spot. And oh my God, one of the biggest meltdowns I've ever seen in this series happen, and probably all of Madden outside of some random things. They were hosting the Bengals the second to last week of the year, and the 4th quarter, and these quarters were 15-minute quarters with a full game simulated. They had a 34-6 lead going into the 4th quarter against the Bengals. And oh my God, they had 5 straight turnovers and allowed the Bengals to come back to tie it up at 34. And then in overtime, they had 2 tries to try to get the win, and they turned it over twice and allowed the Bengals to win on a last-second field goal. A 34-6 lead, and they lost 37-34 from 7 turnovers. Oh my gosh. But they managed to get the division still. The Chiefs, they went 10-6 last year but missed the playoffs. This year they went 10-6 and looked pretty good defensively and really good offensively still as they made the playoffs. The Chargers, of course, the team in real life that went 14-2, MVP LT. LT had an even better year in terms of stats, which we'll see in a little bit, and Philip Rivers played even better too in real life in his first year at the Chargers as a starter. But they regressed to finish 8-8, so missed the playoffs. And the Raiders had a horrible year, and they finished the exact record they did in 2006, 2-14. Which is funny because their defense was really good. Their offense was horrendous. This year, their defense was like one of the worst in the league. Ouch. And the NFC, the Bears, after they went 11-5 last year, they got 11-5 again. But just like in real life, they got home field advantage thanks to the Seahawks choking, which we'll get to in a little bit, as they won the division, got home field advantage. And the Packers, after a slow start to the year, they just like in real life, 2006, they turned it around near the end of the year. They had to beat the Bears the final week of the season, potentially get a playoff spot and win the division, but they choked and lost, and possibly Favre's last season with them in this game because he's going to be 39 next year. The Vikings finished 6-10 like they did in real life last year, not looking good. And the Lions, after going 5-11 last year, regressed down to 2-14, which is worse than the 3-13 they did in real life. So how about that? The Raiders and Lions, just like in real life 2006, had the 2 worst records in the league, so maybe they'd still get Jamarcus Russell for the Raiders and Megatron for the Lions. That'd be interesting just to see that. And then in the NFC South, the Falcons had a horrible start to the year. They were 3-4. Then they turned it around and won all but 2 games to finish 10-6 and make the playoffs and win the division for the first time since 2004. As, oh my god, they had like one of the worst losses in the season when they lost 57-13 to the Cowboys a few weeks into the regular season left. The Saints, with Drew Brees' first year, hoping to improve from last year, they were on the verge of doing it. They were very good for most of the year, but near the end of the year, they choked it. They lost 2 in a row. They got obliterated by the Panthers the final week of the season to get a division win still, and they missed the playoffs. I mean, it's still a 6-game turnaround, but man, that hurts the Saints knowing they could have made the playoffs and potentially a challenge for a bye like they did in real life, but just couldn't get the final 2 weeks. The Panthers had a horrible start to the year. They turned it around near the end, though. Really dominated. See, they statistically were the best team in the NFC South. Best offense. Their defense was right there with the Falcons and Saints, so they should have maybe won the division, but they just choked near the end. They finished 8-8 just like they did in real life 2006. And the Buccaneers, oh my god. They were horrible last year. They inversed their record. They went 11-5 in 2005. They went 5-11 here, just like they did in 2006 when they went 4-12. However, they won 2 games in a row to wrap up the year to really save their season, and something really big about them will come up in just a moment. Then in the NFC East, the Eagles, after going 6-10 last year, went 10-6, inverted the record just like they did in real life 2006, and won the division just like they did. Although they choked the final 3 games of the year to potentially cost them a bye. And then the Giants, after going 11-5 last year, they regressed a bit to 10-6, and they also blew their chance to clinch the division, but they went 10-6, and they still made the playoffs. The Redskins had an up-and-down year. They were all over the place as they finished 8-8, a regression from last year, and they were not a good 8-8 team. Meanwhile, there was the reverse case for the Cowboys. They had a horrible start to the year, but then they turned around near the end of the year, being around 500, just like the Redskins, only they were actually good. It's debatably maybe the best team in the division, but they went 8-8, and they couldn't salvage their season, unfortunately for them. Just a regression. And in the NFC West, the Seahawks won the division going 11-5 after they lost the Super Bowl last year. Now, here's what's unfortunate for the Seahawks. They were 11-3 with 2 weeks left. All they had to do was win just one game, and they clinched home field advantage. Well, they lost to the Chargers in Week 16, so 11-4, they had a chance. All they had to do was beat the 4-11 Buccaneers on the road, and they got it. But no. Not only did they lose to the Buccaneers, they lost 35-10. They couldn't do anything against one of the worst teams in the league when they were one of the best teams in the league. Complete implosion, and that cost them the number 1 seed as they fell to 11-5 in the 2nd seed. And the Cardinals, They stuck with Kurt Warner this year instead of starting with rookie Matt Lyon, and they exploded on the scene. They were 9-3 at one point. Look, they were going to challenge the Seahawks for the division lead, but just like the Seahawks, they imploded too, going from 9-3 to 11-5. But hey, it was their first win season and playoff appearance since 1998. Their best record too in a 16-game schedule. Just missed out on clinching the division and maybe a bye. And the Rams, they had a rough start to the year, but then they turned around near the end of the year, looked dominant. You see, they won 4 in a row to wrap the year up, and they looked really good. Offensively, they were explosive. But they went 9-7, first win season since 2003, but just missed out on the playoffs. And the 49ers, once again, continue to struggle like they did after a 2-14 season in 2004, as they only improved by 1 game to go 5-11, as they lost their final 3 games to wrap up the year. So yeah, that's how it was in the division, playoff stands. It was number 1 seeded Colts, number 2 Steelers, number 3 Patriots, number 4 Broncos, number 5 Chiefs, and number 6 Dolphins. And the NFC was number 1 Bears, number 2 Seahawks, number 3 Falcons, number 4 Eagles, number 5 Cardinals, and number 6 Giants. Bears had a tiebreaker over the Seahawks because they beat them. Falcons had a tiebreaker over the Eagles because they beat them the final week of the year. And the NFC, the Steelers had a tiebreaker over the Patriots for a better conference record. And yeah, those were all the tiebreakers. Now let's go take a look at stats because I want to explain this to you because this is insane. Let's go over to the NFL. Actually, if I can go by I'll just go by this NFL. So Rex Grossman, funny enough, had the best QB rating in the league. And also, if you look at his QB ratings, players are still, by and large, not as good as they normally would be. Because the older man's QBs in simulation games were all put up usually horrible stats. It would only be running backs who would put up really good stats. With my total simulation play, they did much better, but still they didn't put up the best results they could have. As the league leader in passing yards is Peyton, he didn't even get to 4,000 yards. I think this was the first season in years where a season where QB did not have at least 4,000 yards. But 40 touchdowns to 18 picks, that's really good. Man Hasselbeck, 35-17. Mark Bolger, 37-14. Trent Green, 37-19. Carson Palmer had a down year, 25-15. Yeah, look at Dante Culpepper. Like I said, 25 touchdowns, 26 interceptions. Brady, 36-18. Eli had a really good year, 35-18, but his QBR is really low. Yeah, Grossman, 23-20 real life, this time 38-11. Probably one of the best QBs in the league. Favre, way better than he did in real life, 34-17. Johnson, 23-10. Jake Plummer, 28-18. Big Ben, 26-11, a lot better. Kurt Warner had like a 2007 year and 2008 year, a year earlier. Steve McNair did better than he did in real life. But yeah, by and large, the QBs, oh my god, Vic threw more interceptions than touchdowns. Breeze, first year at the Saints, he still played good, but not as good as he could have. But yeah, by and large, much better stats, although some of them still play terrible. I can't believe Philip Rivers to play better than he did in real life 2006 yet is down there in terms of the rankings. That's pretty disappointing. Vince Young played better. Leftwich had a horrible year. Some of the QBs that actually swapped later on the year, like Romo took over like the second half of the year, Campbell I think as well. But yeah, a lot of QBs still didn't play really good, but they played a lot better than they did otherwise with Simmons. Like at best, 6 QBs would probably be like barely even 90. Technically it's 5 still. Only 4 QBs, almost 5 made it in, but overall their stats were much better. Rushing yards, well look at that, LT, he didn't get the touchdowns, but he got the yards. He shattered the rushing yard record with almost 2,600 yards. Deshaun Foster has the second highest ever. Tiki Barber's probably 4th all time now. Like, look at this. Julius Jones, Ahmad Green, Sean Alexander, who was the MVP last year, Clinton Portis, Dominique Davis, Deuce McAllister, Thomas Jones, Willie Parker 1 yard short, Willis McGahee 9 yards short. Like, I think I counted up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Almost 13 players rushed for 2,000 yards. 11 did rush for 2,000 yards. That's even more than I think normally in simulation. But yeah, this is common for simulated games, the other ones. They just kept getting a whole bunch of yards. Thankfully, receivers did a lot better too because of the simulation. As Chad Johnson led the league in receiving yards, with Eddie Kenninson just second. And Mushin Muhammad was 1 touchdown short of breaking. No, he tied the record. He tied the record, I think, that Jerry Rice set 19 years earlier. Randy Moss would break the record next year in real life. He tied the record. Oh my god, the Bears had an elite offense. Unbelievable. Big gap between him and Torrey Holt and Eddie Kenninson. So yeah, this game too had a lot of sacks, but there was not really a lot of big sack leads. Oh, hit the wrong one. Here we go. Dwight Freeney and Sam Adams tie at 18 each with Dan Wilkinson at 16. Not a lot of players having a lot of, like, big numbers of sacks. It's more of just everyone being, like, balanced. Like, look how many players got 10 or more sacks. That's really good. But yeah, that's really more what it was. And the same goes for interceptions. There were a lot of interceptions, but it was more balanced. Adrian Wilson led the league with 7 picks. Josh Bullock and Nick Barnett had 6. Oh, and Champ Bailey had 6 interceptions. Just more balanced overall. So yeah. Wild season. Now let's get to the playoffs, as this was insane. So in the wild card, the Patriots lost to the Dolphins on the last play of the game. The game was tied up at 16. The Patriots were trying to run out the clock to go to overtime. They ran the ball, and they fumbled it, and the Dolphins recovered it and took it all the way back for the game-winning touchdown with time expired. Unbelievable. It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe that just happened, as the Dolphins upset the Patriots to win their first playoff game since 2000. And then the Giants beat the Falcons. They were down 24-12 at one point, but the Giants defense clamped up, stopped Vic. Eli made a big comeback and won it 27-24 by the exact same score the Giants beat the Falcons in the season 2 earlier as well. To get Eli his first win, and the Giants' first win in the playoffs since 2000. And then it was the Chiefs at Broncos. The Broncos dominated pretty much the entire game. The Chiefs tried to keep up, but they couldn't do it, as the Broncos won. And then the Cardinals at Eagles. What a wild game this was. The Cardinals put up a hard-fought fight against the Eagles, having the lead for most of the game. In the middle of the third quarter, they were up 31-28, but the Eagles came back to win it, and they forced a turnover at the end to hold on to win 41-31. What a wild game that was. And in the divisional round, just like they did the last week of the season, the Colts destroyed the Dolphins 40-3, just like they did the final game of the season, 34-7, to make the conference championship for the first time since 2003. Then the Giants at Bears. The Bears dominated the Giants throughout. Eli tried his best, but just couldn't do it, as the Bears won 24-14 to make the conference championship for the first time since 1988. And then the Broncos obliterated the defending champion Steelers and got revenge from their loss earlier in the year. It was 17-14 at one point in the fourth quarter, and the Steelers just completely imploded, turned over the ball over and over and over again, just like the Broncos did against the Bengals a few weeks earlier. And the Broncos stunned the Steelers, got the revenge from the last year's conference championship loss, defended the defending champions, dethroned them to make the conference championship for the second year in a row. And then the Seahawks, in a defensive struggle, beat the Eagles 20-17 to make the conference championship for the second year in a row. So in the conference championships, the Broncos at Colts. The Broncos had a 14-6 lead at one point, as their defense really clamped down for most of the game to stop Peyton in that Colts offense. But in the fourth quarter, the Colts revved it up, recovered, and scored 20 unanswered points to win the game 26-14 to make the Super Bowl for the first time since 1970. And NFC Championship, Seahawks at Bears. A hard-fought game, and the Bears just held on to stop the Seahawks to win 27-20 to make the Super Bowl for the first time since 1985. So Super Bowl was the exact same thing in real life. The Colts and the Bears. And in this game, the Colts dominated first, then the Bears came back to take a lead, but then the Colts came back to take the lead, and the Bears tried their best, but they couldn't pull it off, and the Colts, just like in real life, won 31-24 to win the Super Bowl for the first time since 1970, in a much closer game, too, than it was in real life. The Bears hanged on to the Colts for most of the game. Wow. What a season. What a franchise this was that I've been doing for the last 4 years, and for it to be the exact same outcome it was in real life, the Colts beating the Bears in the Super Bowl. Well, I hope you all enjoyed me talking about this Madden 07 series, as I'm going to delete these saves after this video's up, as I'm done with this. Hope you all enjoyed, though, and see you all next time for any more Madden stuff.